is definitely something up with the Appalachians. I've spent my life in Georgia and love hiking all over, but I must admit, North Carolina has been the best mountains. For this reason, I frequently drive up there and hike and camp. This time I went up with my family in an RV and stayed with them in Mackey Valley. The next day, however, I had them drop me off about 10 miles away from the cold mountain trailhead, and I planned to hike up and spend the night and be back down in the morning. I was by no means inexperienced at hiking or camping, but I had never camped alone. On top of that, I didn't bring a pistol, something I will go without now. On the way up, the trail was surprisingly strenuous. Not necessarily steep. I've hiked some steep stuff out west, but more like a ton of ups and downs and feeling it wouldn't end. Eventually it began to get darker, and I realized I needed to stop and set up while I still had some light. So I stopped about half a mile short of my summit and figured I would continue in the morning. Nothing eventful happened. I set up camp in a really good spot, ate my food, and just went into my tent. At this point, I realized I hadn't run into a single other person my entire way up. This wasn't eerie at the time, but soon would be. I have trouble sleeping and usually lay awake for up to an hour trying to sleep. During this, I thought I heard someone lightly walking around the general area because of the rhythm of the steps. I brushed it off as my mind just running wild, but I did pull out my big knife out of my bag and put it next to me in the sleeping bag. That morning I woke up and ate oatmeal. As I ate, I looked over at my tent and noticed a strange bundle of dried twigs and berries, tied with a green cord, propped against my tent. Internally, I was pissing myself, but I packed up my crap and took off within 5 minutes. In no way I bothered to go back to the summit. I headed straight down. On the way down, I realized there was a pretty heavy fog coming in, and I ended up on the side trail and eventually ended up where I was lost. I used a compass to eventually reorient myself and found the trail again. One of the biggest reliefs of my life. I made it out with no incidents. However, come to find out the same morning a 27-year-old died on the same section of the trail as me, and it's possible I would have run into him and not gotten lost and rejoined the trail later. His family seems to have scrubbed the internet of several of the articles of him, but I'll see if I can find something. The scariest part was knowing that someone knew where I was and watched me, and I had no clue about them. This is a true story about what happened to me. I live in a small village near Turnbridge, Wells in Kent, England. On one side of our village is a vast forest that has parts that are very thick with trees and some parts that are large clearings. I usually walk there on the weekends, as it is relaxing and it calms me, but that changed last weekend. It was Sunday afternoon, and I was doing my usual route through the woods when I came upon lots of pieces of paper, all scattered in specific areas. There wasn't a breeze, so pieces of the paper hadn't blown off. There must have been about 50 pieces of paper, all with the same phrase on it, bringing you a laugh. I didn't really think much of it and took a photo of it as a joke. I kept on walking, and 15 minutes later I came across another pile, all with the same phrase, bringing you a laugh. I took another picture and decided I would report it to the non-emergency number when I got home. When I looked up from taking the picture, I saw a bright flash of color in the tree line. I called out, "Hello? Who's there?" Nothing. I called out again, "Hello?" Again, nothing. I was thinking I was just seeing things, but when I moved on, I was cautious. Then all of a sudden, a clown jumped out from behind the tree. He had a latex mask that covered his head and was wearing bright yellow, purple, and red jumpsuit covered with blue polka dots. His mouth was revealed on the mask, and he grinned at me. To be honest, I was expecting him to have like crooked yellow teeth, and I was surprised when he flashed perfect, bright white ones at me. I was a bit taken back and stuttered out, "Who are you?" He giggled and said in a sing-song voice, "I'm Honky the Clown. I'm your best friend." He kept asking me questions about where I lived, what my name was, and if I locked my doors at night. I was kind of annoyed and said firmly, "This isn't funny. Leave me alone." He stopped grinning. "Not funny?" he said in an upset voice. "Not funny?" He kept repeating those two words, but he got more angry every time he said it. After the fifth repetition of the words, he was practically spitting in fuming anger. He then took a kitchen knife out of his back pocket. He lunged at me, and I dodged out of the way, but not fast enough. I didn't see that he cut me, but I looked down at my arm and saw a long, thin line appear on my skin, oozing blood. I let out a yelp and took one last look at him and sprinted away. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get away. Nothing happened after that. I ran out of the woods, back home, and called the police instantly. I had completely forgot about my arm, and it was covered in blood by the time the police got here, and they sent for an ambulance. I took them to the place where the clown was, but he was gone, and so was the paper. I haven't seen him since. Now a week later, I feel safe to write about this here. The police investigated for a few days, asked a few questions, and they were gone by Wednesday. I still look over my shoulder as if the clown will be there, watching me, holding a knife. So these next two stories are actually by the same person who had multiple occasions. So this happened when my sister and I were kids, and we went hiking in the woods in our backyard in North Carolina. We only had a few neighbors around us, and our house was surrounded by the woods. It was a Saturday afternoon during the summer, and my sister and I decided to go hiking alone together, like we did quite frequently. We were both under the age of 8, but our parents let us go hiking alone. We loved exploring the forest and discovering new places. As we made our way through the woods, everything was fine at first. When we went to our favorite place in the woods, where we usually hung out, something didn't just feel quite right. I felt an uncomfortable feeling, like something was going to happen. I looked around at my surroundings, but I didn't see anything or anyone out of the ordinary. My sister and I continued walking through the woods until suddenly we heard leaves crunching behind us, so we turned around to see what it was. There was nothing there, so we thought at first it was just an animal. As we started hiking again, we heard leaves crunching, and as we turned around, we saw someone running to hide behind the trees. We could see their shadows coming from behind us, and it looked like a person. It was definitely not an animal. We both looked at each other and felt paralyzed by the fear. We started freaking out and thought this person was going to try to kidnap us. I grabbed my sister's hand and told her to run. We ran as fast as we possibly could back home. Once we made it home, we ran inside and told our parents. Our parents became worried and told us next time we go hiking, don't go too far away from the house anymore. I don't know who was following us, but it still freaks me out to this day. I don't know what they wanted or what they would have done if we hadn't run away. It was a nice autumn night, and my family and I decided that we would have a campfire. We went outside after it was dark, and we were roasting marshmallows and making s'mores while we sat around the campfire talking. The campfire was at the very edge of the woods by our playground, which was quite far away from our house, since we had a lot of acres. We had spent time outside at night before, and everything was okay. But this night, we spent a few hours outside, and suddenly we heard something in the woods. We heard leaves crunching and sticks break. We thought it was an animal, so we ignored it. We went back to talking, and we heard it again. It sounded like it was getting closer and closer. The footsteps didn't sound like animals, and instead it sounded more like human. Then we heard someone cough in the woods. My family and I all stood up in silence because we were all freaked out. We shined our flashlights into the woods to see who or what it was. We saw a dark figure of a man hiding behind a tree. They were watching us. We left everything outside and ran as fast as we could back to the house. Once we were inside our house, we locked all the doors and the windows, and my family and I thought that the person had been watching us this entire time, and it must have been the same person that followed my sister and I while we were hiking. We were all scared, and still to this day, I had no idea who it was that was watching us, or what they would have done to us if we hadn't ran away. After this, we never had a campfire at night ever again, and instead we did it during the daytime. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, I wanted to say thank you for watching, and I wanted to ask you guys a question as well. So I know you guys like the deep woods and stuff like that. I've actually got a story of my own, and I was wondering if you guys wanted to hear it. I'm being 100% honest. And yes, it 100% did happen to me. It actually happened to me and my family. But comment down in the comment section if you guys would like to hear that story. I'm right at the threshold of being able to do live streams, so I can end up just live streaming and telling my story. But with that being said, if you did enjoy this video and you would like to see more of them, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. We're doing nothing but growing. I have a lot of good content and a lot more coming, and a surprise collab coming up very soon. So definitely look out for that. Make sure to check out the links in the description as well, like my Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including my Gmail if you would like to submit a story. I'm always wanting to get subscriber stories, or get stories sent to me that don't require me getting permission from a third party or anything like that. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, by the way, I'm still sick and I finally went to the doctor, and yeah, it does not sound good. Shit. I was trying to laugh, but then I coughed. I've got to make sure to cut that out. But yeah.